Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Heretical Week. It's number 37, and we're late as always. Like, we are literally never on time when we start this thing. I don't know why that is. But today, we are sending an invite out to the wonderful Dave S., and we are discussing the Mandela Effect, which is something that Gavigai pointed out to me, which I knew nothing about, but it sounded like a fascinating comment, fascinating subject matter to comment on. And at Gavigai's suggestion, we sent out a message over to Dave S., who kindly responded that he would join us. So Gavigai is sending out the invite shortly, or now.
Done.
Done and done.
Done.
And as always, fuck arcane logos. So,
I have to step in here though and say fuck you guys too though this time, because I had no idea about this Mandela effect, and it took me like multiple months to get over the conspiracy, the flat Earth conspiracy, and now I know about this. That's not fair. Fuck you guys. Now I'm going to be obsessed with following all the nonsense of the Mandela effect. So screw
it's a
you
false
guys.
memory. Oh my God, he's live and in person. Here he is.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Very
welcome.
good, Dave. Thank you so much for showing up to our little neck of the woods.
Oh, no, thanks for the invite. It's my pleasure, don't worry.
We figured that you know more than we do, which is probably the case.
Well, funny story. Okay, so I got the invite, a few days ago, which I, graciously accepted, and then frantically Googled what the hell I just let myself in for. So I was pleasantly surprised when basically I found out what it was all about. So it's a really interesting topic, and one that luckily I do have a little bit of experience of, because I used to be I did a couple of years research within false memories. So luckily, when I read it, I was like, okay, when I was like, okay, what the hell have I just signed myself up for? It's basically a very specific type of false memory, which hopefully is something that we can have a good discussion about tonight or today, whatever time it is there.
Yeah,
Great.
it's noon where I'm at in California on the West Coast.
Okay.
Sunny and noon, so it's great. So I just did a little bit of research because I honestly haven't heard anything about this until Gavigai pointed this out to me like a few days ago. So I had just as much time as you do to look it up, but like none of the education. So
Okay, always good. Yes. Sorry, don't carry on.
Oh no. Gabby, did you want to kind of go over? I'm tossing this to you because it's your subject matter. But,
Sure.
Just as a quick overview, from what I've read, the Mandela Effect was actually coined by a lady named Fiona Broome in 2010, describing a collective mismemory of when Nelson Mandela had died. And I guess apparently some people were remembering him dying in the 80s in prison, and he actually died in 2013. So it led to a whole cavalcade of conspiracy theories, and it's made its way into theism, even so as far as saying that people are using the CERN super collider to go back in time and change the Bible. And I hope I didn't step on your toes, Gabby. So that was kind of
that was an interesting way to hand it over to me.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, anything. Go for it. Okay, I'm officially
No.
I'm officially pickleballing it over to you.
So, well, I'll start with the way I came across this. I was talking with some theists about kind of things that they're King James only guys or whatever, and I was trying to point out to them why the King James version is a terrible translation of the Bible and things, and how there are things that are not included in more modern translations because scholarship has revealed that certain passages or even a verse or whatever, there were interpolations that were added after centuries later after the original text was written, and there's textual evidence to support this. Well, one of the guys was like, "Oh, you're talking about the Mandela effect," and I was like, "What? What is that?"
You're like, am I?
Yeah. So I looked into it a little bit, and first of all, it had nothing to do with what I was talking about or what I was getting at all. You know, I was talking about, you know, there was an original text of the Bible, or you know, at least certain manuscripts of the Bible that came to us through history, and that, you know, there were changes as those manuscripts were transcribed, sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally or whatever, and we can look back through, you know, the older manuscripts to try to figure out what, you know, what the original text said, more or less. And when something is absent from, you know, centuries worth of manuscripts that we have, and all of a sudden it's, you know, found in this new text or whatever, now we can start to say, well, it doesn't look like that was part of the original thing. So anyways, but that's a different thing than this Mandela effect. So as we've already talked about a little bit, that the idea was that, I guess, you know, this woman heard that that Nelson Mandela died in, what was it, 2013, I think, after being in he was the president of South Africa or whatever. Well, people thought that he died back in I think it was the 1990s, was kind of the general consensus, that he had died in prison in South Africa, and so they were like, what happened, you know, and because many people had the same memory, they started thinking, well, wow, that's really weird that we all kind of thought the same thing had happened, and yet, you know, now we come to find out that it's not the case. No, he wasn't dead, or maybe he was, and our memory was right, but something has changed. And so they started to look through, and there are examples in pop culture. You know, they talked about, what was it, in Star Wars? You know, Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back, the line is, you know, the blank, I am your father. Well, everybody always thinks it's Luke, I am your father, but in reality, the real script says, no, I am your father, because there's part of a conversation that's going on there or whatever. And in context, that line makes sense, whereas Luke, I am your father, doesn't make sense, even though it's kind of repeated that way or whatever. So, and there are many other examples where, you know, people are like, oh, you know, this is the way I remember something, but this is what, you know, there's evidence to suggest that it really was this thing, and so there's a disconnect between what I remember and what it is based on the evidence that we have. And so the theory started to brew, well, all of these things are being changed in history. Our memories are right, but someone has gone and changed history somehow. And so then this, you know, conspiracy, for whatever reason, CERN became kind of the central focus, and that it was used for people to go back in time and change history. You know, why they would go back in history and change, you know, one line of dialogue from Star Wars. One of the other examples that they give is Mr. Rogers' theme song. It's a beautiful day in blank neighborhood, and everybody thinks it's the neighborhood, but it's this neighborhood. Well, that's an important change. That's something you'd really want to change in history, is the lyrics to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood's theme song. And then, you know, there are dozens of these examples. And so, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just going to say, as a side note, if you were going to go back in time and change something in Star Wars, you should probably went back in time and have removed Jar Jar Binks from the movies entirely. Like, why would you have that line? You know, just
right,
line.
Total waste of power, right? I mean,
yeah, just, you know, I mean, he had, whoever went back in time and changed Star Wars had enough wherewithal to remove that scene of Leia and Luke making out. Do you guys remember that?
No, that never happened.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I remember that, but That's if you look hard enough, you can find that somewhere online.
You would think that George Lucas
It would
would be very interested in the Mandela effect if he could hook up with CERN and go back in time and then make all the crazy changes that he's made to the Star Wars movies. You'd think he would be on top of that. I mean,
no, because then he can't resell the DVDs a million times and make all that extra money.
It's not about the money. He's a visionary.
Gotcha. He's a visionary millionaire. So before we toss it over to Dave, I just wanted to go over some of the conspiracy theories because, as Gavagai said, over time this thing sort of grew, like a fungus, right? So for whatever reason, CERN got thrown into the mix, and there's everything from someone going back in time. Now some people are saying there are alternate realities where we're experiencing memories from alternate realities. There's all sorts of wacky shit that's going on, but and I think there's, if I'm not mistaken, Dave, there's something called confabulation, which I have up on my page on my screen. It says it's an unconscious process of creating a narrative that the narrator believes is true, but that is demonstrably false. The term is popular in psychiatric circles to describe narratives of patients with brain damage or a psychiatric disorder who make up stories about what they perceive or remember. Stories that are known to be either completely fictional or in great part fantasy, which are put forth confidently as accurate and truthful. That's more of like a mental disorder, though, right?
It is, but at the same time, I think we do that all the time anyway. We fill in details of events all the time when we're remembering things because we don't remember everything in this situation. So, for example, we've been talking for like 10, 50 minutes, however long it's been. But if you ask someone to give the general gist of it, then they'll be able to pad it out with a lot more that's going on. In the same way, if you're in a train station or an airport with a lot of people, you can't pinpoint every single person and every single everything that everyone's wearing. So you sort of fill in the details. So if I say, well, what was that person that you just went past wearing? You can probably maybe not consciously make up details, but you have sort of scripts and schemas and stereotypes of what people generally look like when they're in an airport or in a train station or somewhere. So even though to the extreme degree, yes, it's probably under the umbrella of sort of what we might consider to be clinically diagnosable, but at the same time we fill in details all the time. So I think this is the interesting thing when it comes to clinical psychology. Where do you draw the line of normal and abnormal because one of the interesting things about clinical psychology is that it seems to be spectrums of what's normal and abnormal. So us filling in sort of generic details about how people look, if you go to a school, for example, and you look at you forget what the teacher looks like, then you fill in the details of, well, teachers generally look like this. So you might not explicitly remember, but you sort of fill in the details, or like a student. So it's when it goes to the extreme that it'd probably be classified as what we'd clinically diagnosable. But yeah, we fill in details all the time when it comes to memory.
But when it happens on such a grand scale, is it more of a testament to how similarly our brains work as a species?
I would say so. Yes, I think that what we need to, I guess, address first of all is how memory works as a process. So I think what people generally think of as memory is like a videotape. So it gets stored in the brain as a videotape, and then when you remember something, you just play it back. That's not how it works. Okay, the memory is more like a theatre production, in that if you see the same theatre production 5 nights in a week, you'll see 5 different versions of the play. They'll be similar, but because they're actors have different performances or whatever, it's slightly different. So the general gist is there, but each time you re-watch it, or in this case re-remember it, it's constructed and reconstructed. So it's reconstructed each time. So no two are ever identical. So instead of thinking this sort of, when I remember something, this is exactly how it happened, it's more like a construction based on the mood you're feeling in. If you're feeling fatigue, any number of factors basically contribute to what's remembered, how it's remembered, and then how it's recalled. So if you're in a negative mood when you recall it, you may remember more of the negative details. So for example, if we have a terrible discussion now and you offend me to my core and say psychology is nonsense and this is all hokum, then, I hope you don't do, then I may remember this in a negative light, and then when I'm telling my girlfriend about this, who's actually sat over there, who was offended at the Jar Jar Binks reference, by the way, just to put that out there.
But I am wearing Boba Fett.
She's wearing Boba Fett, that's good. That's what it is. But yeah, so when we when we then recall the memory, if I'm feeling in a good mood later, then I might go, okay, well, it wasn't that bad. They weren't that, harsh to me about psychology. Or if I'm feeling in a negative mood, I may only focus on the negative things. So then it gets into things like confirmation bias and so on. That these processes are all related, but at the same time, I think people have this very simplistic view about memory that it's just, when I remember something, it's exactly how it happened, where I would say that all memories, to at least some degree, are actually false memories. That every time you remember something isn't actually how it happened. It's how you remembered it in the context that it was, in the state of affairs, in the state of your, I guess, emotional or other words, psychological, well-being state. So if you were, like I say, feeling negative or excited, then you remember things. And there's things like weapon focus. So you focus on weapons, then all the peripheral details are kind of sort of blurred together. So yeah, memories a very constructed and reconstructed process. So I'm not surprised when you hear about these things like the Mandela Effect, which is just a very specific instance of a false memory, of just a lot of people thinking, hold on a minute, I thought that same thing as well. Whereas, whereas when we think of memories, we have our individual, I guess because it's a difference between autobiographical and other sort of episodic memory, but we'll get into that later, I'm sure. Hopefully.
Yeah. One of the things too that I think you have to take note of here is when we're talking about pretty much all of these examples of the Mandela Effect, the vast majority of them are from pop culture, and they're like, for example, the Star Wars quote is such an iconic quote, and it gets used and parodied a lot. And for example, in the beginning of the movie Tommy Boy, Chris Farley says, "Luke, I am your father," into a fan. So he misquotes that, but he misquotes it in a way because if he were to say, "No, I am your father," that would seem weird, and we wouldn't necessarily know what he was talking about. So it's very common to hear the misquote of "Luke, I am your father," because putting Luke in front of that sentence gives you the context of where that sentence comes from. Yeah. So and there's a ton of things like that. For example, Forrest Gump is another example where the actual quote is, "Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates," whereas most people say life is like a box of chocolates. And because more often than not, it makes more sense to say life is like a box of chocolates as opposed to the past tense if you're just referencing it. But because all these things get misquoted so often, that's what sticks in your head. And I can picture Tom Hanks saying the wrong quote because I'm familiar with Tom Hanks's voice, and I can easily in my head create him saying that sentence even though he never says it in the movie. It's very easy to do, and so you just have a lot of these things are just things that get picked up in pop culture and get spoofed on Saturday Night Live or wherever, and we get stuck with the wrong thing in our brain because these things get floated about out there.
It's funny. This also explains why whenever I got in a fight with my ex-girlfriend, she always remembered it as it was always my fault.
Exactly.
Every time it was always my fault. This is amazing.
The Mandela Effect right there.
Now, it's one thing to say we remember movie quotes in a certain way due to context, or because our brain sort of puts it in a way that makes sense in the context of how we're speaking. But then it's another thing to say, "Hey, Nelson Mandela died, 20 years before he actually died," right? And then having a large population also think the same thing. Because that, to me, is something that's just like a historic event as well. The Mandela Effect also gets into like historical events as well that are remembered a certain way.
Well, there's a good, I don't know if it's the exact same thing, but there's a good phenomenon within. Actually, George Bush was susceptible to this, and one of the way he recorded 9/11 happening is very different to actually how it happened. So it just goes to show that you can be the president of the United States and you can still be susceptible to this. No one is impervious to this. Even people with photographic memories still are able to have false memories implanted. So even if you have a photographic memory, you're still susceptible to this. But one of the good phenomenons is when I say things like, have you seen video footage of the first tower collapsing of the two towers, twin towers? And a lot of people say, yeah, of course I do. But what they've actually seen is the second tower. Okay, we've got video footage of that. We've got no video footage of the first, but they think, okay, well I can picture the two towers. I can picture the plane hitting into. Sorry, using a really emotive example, but it kind of helps because people think about flashbulb memories, so memories that are so emotive that they think, oh yeah, I've got a perfect memory of this. Everyone can remember where they were. But it's amazing how that doesn't really their confidence doesn't correlate with their accuracy. So people go, well, I can picture the twin towers. I can picture the plane flying into it. So we must have seen the first one as well. So they create that. Same thing is true with Princess Diana's car crash. They say, if you ask people, do you remember video footage of the car crash? And they go, yeah, of course. But what they've seen is like car crashes in films and so on. So they can remember what a car crash looks like, and they've seen the wreckage afterwards. So they can kind of piece them together, create this sort of story in their head, and go, yes, I've now got a memory of this thing that we have no record of. Again, it's something we don't actually have a record of. So it's how this sort of, like we mentioned with the Tom Hanks thing, we can imagine all these pieces together. We stitch it together with what actually happened, and then we create something that never happened just by the mere fact that we can imagine these sort of certain things in that kind of way. So yeah, like false memory, the idea of false memories or memories being reconstructed isn't new. It came from like the 30s. A guy called Bartlett who basically presented like a piece of text, and it depended on which title they had. It was one of them was like it's like a pirate. I think it's like pirates, and one of them was about ghosts, and it described like a war. And then depending on what the title was, people remembered it in different ways, and then added in details that made it more consistent with that. So yeah, this is from like 60 years ago. And then in the 50s, the DRM paradigm, which is another sort of way of eliciting false memories, in which you have a list of words that all have a sort of semantic link with another word. So, for example, if I say sleep, dream, pillow, bed, things like that, then it primes a certain word. It makes a certain word more explicit. So, for example, I know I said sleep, but if you think of a list of words that are all related to that, then people would remember this sort of what's called the critical word. So yeah, the idea of false memories is pretty well understood now, and especially like what happened in the 1990s was the memory wars. Sorry, I'm droning on here, but yeah, the memory wars was basically where clinicians were claiming that a lot of people they were through sort of hypnosis or dream interpretation, a lot of people were recovering repressed memories of childhood sexual abuse from their parents or from a loved one, only to find out that these were actually being implanted, like completely by accident by the clinicians. So basically, it was a battle between the clinicians and researchers to say, okay, are these actual, child abuse stories, or are they being suggested, completely by accident by clinicians? And it seems as though that what they were doing was saying that they would go into the clinic and say, oh, I'm feeling a bit depressed, or I'm feeling a certain way. They go through like hypnosis or dream interpretation, and they sort of suggest to them that, a lot of people who are in this situation is because they have like repressed memories. And so through hypnosis, they say, well, tell me about your mother or your father, and they hint at, that a lot of people who feel like this later in life are because they've experienced some trauma in their past, and then they fill in the blanks and go, crikey, it must have been this trauma, and then they remember, this trauma. But yeah, sometimes it's for people who they had absolutely no contact with. So, for example, one case was their father was away at the military, so had no contact with their child, but they still remembered being abused by them. So yeah, it's been going on for a long time, and it just seems like these are specific instances of false memories in which people go, either through pop culture, like we're saying with the films, or like the actual Mandela Effect. Remembering his death, I'm guessing someone died around the time, someone important, or someone's wife, or
or perhaps there was a rumor that he had died at the time.
Possibly,
I don't know.
Yes.
And then they just either didn't bother to check it, or whatever reason remembered it, and then pieced it together, and then when he actually died, go, hang on a minute, I thought he'd already died. It's just a lot of people I'm guessing there's a high-profile person who died around that time. But it's a lot of people, so it's confusing for that like the pop culture things we can kind of get on board with. It makes sense that like we hear the spoof versions of them a lot, like you said, the Luke, I'm your father thing. Because that makes more sense in the context of a lot of films. For example, I was thinking of Austin Powers, when Dr. Evil says that to Austin when they're in the moon base, whatever it is, So it makes sense in a lot of contexts, but the actual Mandela Effect, when it comes to things like that, it is particularly interesting because what's causing that rather than just a normal sort of false memory, if that's such a thing.
It's obviously scientists at CERN going back in time. I think that's the obvious explanation.
It sounds like you're eliminating this whole time travel thing from the table here, Dave.
I've been paid off by CERN, sorry.
Knew it.
Well, and then so we have two possible explanations right there, right? And
we do?
Well, sure. So there's logically possible. Let me say it that way.
I got you.
So there's one, that people are going back in time and changing the timeline, but apparently we remember the original timeline. So that's one explanation, and then the other explanation is that people just have faulty memories, and for whatever reason we can have many people having the same incorrect memory, and so, but time or history has not yet actually, in fact, been altered.
Now, you know what's funny? In America, this came about, part of the big explosion was from the children's book, The Berenstain Bears. Did you guys read that online?
Yeah.
I saw that as well, yeah.
You did or didn't, Dave?
I did, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I always remembered him as Stein or Steen, right? That's how I remembered him as a kid. So someone had a picture of like a VHS tape or something where it does say Berenstain, A-I-N, but on the spine it says Stein. So I don't know if it's just like my brain remembering the Steen or whatever, or if somebody went back in time and changed it because he thought the bear sounded too Jewish or something. Like, I don't know. Like, Yeah,
well, and they apparently didn't do a real good job of cleaning up after it, because I also heard that there was some evidence that, like, TV Guide printed the Steen version or whatever, like the Jewish version of it, in some instances. So they only cleaned up a little bit. But that goes all the more to explain how it is that some people came to the idea that it was S-T-I or S-T-E-I-N or whatever it is, because it's been out there in print that way, and people probably also don't articulate it well, and sometimes they'll say Berenstain, but they don't necessarily say it clearly, so it comes off as Berenstain or something, So there's all of this kind of going on in the culture, just like when they did the parody of Sarah Palin and what's the actress that does the parody so well?
Tina Fey.
Tina Fey, yeah, did the parody, and Russia. I can see Russia from my house. Well, Governor Palin never actually said those words, but a lot of people kind of got it into their heads that she said that, and I saw a video a few years ago where they were interviewing people at liberal rallies and things like that, and asked if she said that, and they thought that she had actually said that because they remembered the parody of it. So
it's funny. So we talked about the parallel universes and all that stuff, but I have this article up that says one theory based on principles of quantum mechanics holds that people who experience the Mandela Effect may have slid between parallel realities.
I read that one as well.
Yeah, and then it's funny because they go into sort of like the next paragraph. It says the glitch is in your memory, not the matrix. It says a leading psychological theory holds that memory is constructive, like kind of Dave said, right? Mm-hmm. Not reproductive, i.e. the brain builds memories out of various bits and pieces of information on the fly as opposed to playing them back like a recording. Memories aren't pure. They can be distorted by any number of factors, including bias, association, imagination, and peer pressure. Or what Dave said. I could just pull that, and that's just what Dave said.
But you don't remember it exactly, do you?
I know. I reconstructed it that way.
Well, I mean, that's the funny thing, that I think it's very intuitive when you think of it like that. That if you, like, say, if you try to repeat what I said before, I can't remember what I said before, and that was me telling it like 10 minutes ago. So, but I think people don't like the idea of the fact that something that's so important to us, like memory, is something that's fallible, prone to error, prone to biases, because I think, a slight tangent here, but people with Alzheimer's is so heartbreaking because they forget, they can't remember their identity almost. So, losing their memory, they're still physically there, they're still biologically the same person, but without their memory, they're like a shell of a person. I think that's why we hold memory in such high regard, because it is integral to who we are. If I don't remember who I am, then who am I, kind of thing. That's really philosophical there, but I think that's why people want to think memory is this kind of pure, unbiased, rationally defended, just this thing. But yeah, the humbling thing about psychology is you learn a lot about yourself and a lot about other people. That's very unsettling, and I think that's what's interesting about this, that there's people who would rather believe time travelers or parallel universes or parallel realities or whatever you want to call it, rather than the idea that, we just don't remember things as well as we thought we did. And a lot of people make mistakes.
I think it does have a lot to do with that, and I also think it has a lot to do with just, especially with the advent of the internet and YouTube in the last decade or so. I think there are a lot of people who just want to buy into conspiracy theories too. Like, they want to be on the edge of knowing things, and they easily grab onto these conspiracies like the flat Earth or this Mandela Effect, because they feel like they feel smarter than everybody else, I think, when they're the ones who see through the facade of reality that's being fed to them. And it's especially, and this is surprising to me, but it seems, especially with the flat Earth and now with the Mandela Effect, that Christians are especially susceptible to this for some reason, and I don't quite understand why.
I had a really old video regarding, I don't remember what group of Christians it was, but I always likened it to I think it was maybe the presuppositionalists or something, or I don't know if it was Calvinists or whatever. It was the ones that say like they're part of the elect, like they know they're part of the elect or something, and those guys.
Calvinist, right?
Is that it? Okay. It's like when you go to the club, right? And there's a VIP line and there's a normal line, and everyone in the VIP line is like, yeah, they feel better about themselves because they're in the VIP line. That's kind of how I always imagine it, right? Like, they have this sort of like, well, we know the real truth, and it kind of elevates them. It kind of elevates them, right, and puts them kind of in an exclusive group where they can feel special. That's how I always. That was my perception of them, of their behavior.
I do think that there is a lot of blame for this kind of thought process that needs to go to people like Ken Ham and other people who have worked so hard to discredit science and to make people question the scientific process, because it's so dumbfounding to me that people are so quick to jump onto these conspiracies, and I think those types of people, the Ken Hams of the world, deserve the lion's share of the blame for this kind of thought process.
Or people like the vigilant Christian who promotes this idea that everything's the Illuminati. If you watch any of his videos, you can't watch anything and it's not the Illuminati. But sorry, you were going to ask me something then.
He blocked me, so I was.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was going to say, it's also interesting, and I wonder, you could probably do a study on this to see how many videos are out there that utilize footage from the Matrix for these kind of conspiracies. It's like if it's a 9/11 conspiracy, they give this intro with, everything that you thought you knew is about to be changed, and the Mandela Effect was another one where they used this, and it's just like, well, we're going to pull the rug right out from under you and completely change your understanding of reality if you buy into this. And it just, I don't know, it's fascinating to me that the Matrix kind of has become this icon of conspiracies, and the flat Earth people do it too. They've got some of that in there.
And the people that don't think the moon landing was real.
Yeah.
Those guys. So, hey Dave, can I kiss your ass for just a quick second? For just a quick second.
You can do it for longer than that if you want to.
So you can have your girlfriend listen because you'll look 10 times hotter to her after this. No, I was saying I really enjoyed some of your old videos, especially the ones that you did for presuppositionalism.
Okay, yeah.
But you took a break, right? If I'm not mistaken, for a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, those are
I
great
sometimes don't know.
videos. I've actually watched the presuppositionalism ones, I think, multiple times.
Okay.
Yeah, so I forgot where I was going with this, but
But good job.
I was like, yeah, good job on those videos.
Fanboy.
And then I just totally forgot where I was going with this. So,
If I can guess, is it about certainty or knowledge and
no, it was kind of a lot. Gaba guy said something, and then he went on like 15 seconds longer than I thought, and I was like, fuck, now I had to brain fart. I just totally lost what I was gonna say.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no problem. But fuck me, someone go, because I just totally lost what I was gonna say.
Do we want to talk about any of the videos that we posted on the?
Well, I wanted to talk before we go away from this. Another aspect of this Mandela effect was some of the Christians that were responding to their fellow Christians to try and give them some grounds on which they, are firm planting that this is not really happening, and they turned to the Bible, and of course, and argued that no, nobody's going back in time to change things because the Bible says that that's impossible. And I just thought I found that kind of an interesting thing. That okay, well now I know this is not really the case because the thing that I believe is true is telling me that it couldn't be so.
Well, that's kind of the funny thing is. Oh great! Now I've got mischievous Heathens brain fart.
See, he did it to you too.
What's that?
What time travel? Our time travel is just stealing all our memories and thoughts.
That could be too. Shoot, what were you saying, Gava guy?
The conspiracies can't be true because the Bible is unchanging and
well, that's the okay. Let me cut you off there before I forget. The thing is, and we failed to mention this, is one of the prime candidates for the Mandela effect is that the King James version of the Bible is believed to suffer from being changed by CERN in the past. I think you actually mentioned that when you first introed us into this, Gavagai, but we didn't really touch too much on it. But like for example, one of the verses I'm probably wrong. I'm not even going to guess which part of the Bible it's from because I'm not going to remember. But there's a verse about where most people think that the verse says something about the lion laying with the lamb, but in reality, the Bible verse says the wolf lays with the lamb. And then a couple of words later, the word lion appears later. So there's some conflation going on there, or possibly time-traveling scientists. But that's one. I think that's a big part of why the Christians have paid attention to this, is because they're concerned, especially those who think that the King James Version is the one and only version of the Bible. It's the true version of the Bible. Because there are so many different versions of the Bible. I think most Christians who don't necessarily hold one as being the perfect version of the Bible wouldn't be bothered by this as much as those who think the King James Version is the perfect version of the Bible.
Oh. Isn't the King James Version like the shittiest version?
Yes.
It's the one that's been like altered and changed and added and had shit removed and stuff.
Well,
So, at what point does said time traveler enter in to change a couple of words here and there? You
The,
know what
the
I mean?
main
Like,
the main problem, as far as I understand it, with the King James version is that the King James version kind of comes in at a point in time where there had been so many changes and translations already that it had all kinds of bad interpretations. But that's kind of when it got locked into place, and then from that point in time, it's been basically the same. Whereas other versions, they've been able to go back to earlier transcripts and get better, more accurate versions of the texts. And so the King James version is just kind of locked in time to. Do you know, Gavagai, how long ago it was put together?
16th century, I think.
Something like that. So you had all that time for all these changes, and we know that these changes were happening, and it's got. And the other thing too, if I'm remembering correctly, is they took from the Latin, which is the worse of the two, because you basically have Latin transcripts and Greek transcripts. And the King James version is based off of the Latin, which is already a translation. So you've got two translations going into the King James version, as opposed to going back to the original Greek, which, as I said, are better witnesses to the originals.
And I misspoke. It was the 1600s, like early 1600s. 1611 was when it was completed. So the 17th.
God damn it, Gavagai.
Well,
Can you just boot him out of here?
That's it. You're getting the boot right now. So is it fair to say, from a memories standpoint, like from what I can tell from the descriptions, I imagine it's sort of like a game of Tetris, right? Where your memory tries to, like, if making the line, like the straight line, across to get points is like an accurate memory. So your brain takes the shapes and sort of constructs as best it can to, like, try to form the right. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to picture that. Okay, so
I got the guy with the PhD puzzled. Yes, yes.
Okay, so to get an accurate memory, to get an accurate memory, you have to make things fit, I guess. But
well, your brain tries to fit it as best it can, so it's like rotate and try to make the shit. You know what I mean? It's like they're trying to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Rather than it coming down like a perfect line every time, Yeah, I kind of. Okay, I'll go with that.
The worst analogy ever. Just, you don't have to be. Hey. Yeah.
What if it was more like Galaga, where he's shooting, or Centipede?
I'm pretty sure I saw Dave mouth these fucking Americans to his girlfriend. I don't know, like, save me from these Americans. Do you have a are you from you're from the UK?
I am, yeah, from the UK.
Okay. Do you have like a UK version of Ken Ham in the UK? Like, do you have, because studying you're a psychologist, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing my PhD in, yeah.
Okay. So, do you ever see these guys and you just go, they're all fucking kooks? These guys are kooks.
Yeah, or charlatans. I can't quite decide. But yeah, it's. I don't think there's anyone closely. I think we have the better version of the apologists here. We have like the John Lennox. We have. Oh God, who else have we got? I can't think of anyone else but shit ones. But we have which is pretty accurate.
I got a side question real quick.
Oh, fire away, yeah.
Is it easy to pick up chicks when you say I have a PhD? Like, do
you hear my girlfriend just yell yap? Yes, it helps when they're doing one, as my girlfriend is also doing a PhD in psychology. Because we like to stick together.
Don't you think that picking up chicks is kind of like Tetris?
I think so. Yeah, I see that, yeah.
And that I stack them neatly and I try to make a straight line.
Yep.
All right, we're this is.
We're a little off topic.
Yeah.
So, okay. So
we'll have the scientists at CERN go back in time and change
we'll edit
the conversation.
Or you CERN time travel.
Yes.
What's really? I'm not sure how long we have you for, Dave. I know it's like what 9 o'clock where you're at.
It's 9 o'clock, so keep going. Keep probing me until I fall asleep. You'll see if I fall asleep.
All right. No, I mean I don't know enough to I think ask a cogent question. To be honest with you, like I've learned a lot. I've learned more about memories than I ever thought I would know. Gabby, do you have anything you want to ask, or totally like?
Well, I don't mind quick talking. We kind of touched on this a little bit. Gabby brought it up, but and this goes back to one of the a video actually that you posted in our little group chat, Heathen, where it's this Christian apologist, and I don't know. Have you seen him before? You posted that?
No, I just Googled Mandela Effect.
Okay.
I think he's just a pastor.
Okay,
He's
that could be.
Pastor guy.
But he's got. It looked like he had a number of other videos that were not dealing with the Mandela Effect. But it's interesting to see kind of the Christian who's trying to be the voice of reason against the his fellow Christians who are purporting the Mandela Effect. And it's interesting because there are times when I'm in full agreement with him, and other times where he just goes off the rails, and it's entertaining in that way.
This guy also has other videos, just not to sway you, but his other videos, some of his other video titles, Pokemon Go, Harmless Game, or Communion with Devils.
Mm-hmm.
Is Barack Obama the Antichrist?
Mm.
Yeah, so I think he has a 5-part series on the Armageddon. So I'm not sure if that's going to sway you in any way, but...
yeah, I'm on board with him now, actually.
It's similar to the Kent Hovind's struggle now with the flat earthers, because he's not a flat earther himself, but he has all of these people who are young earth creationists who are now coming to him and saying, look, the Bible says the earth is flat, and you're denying this, and they're using a lot of the same kinds of arguments and things that he uses to support the young earth, and throwing out the same kinds of scientific evidences that he throws out to support his young earth issue. And it's it becomes a problem. So you see him kind of stammering and or just kind of shoving it to the side and saying, well, I get this. I get asked this a lot of times, and it's not true. The Earth is round. Blah blah blah. I'm going to move on. So,
yeah, in my opinion, it's like he completely deserves that. I have no idea whether or not this guy. I don't know that he's teaching anything that would lead exactly to his followers coming to the Mandela Effect in quite the same beautifully ironic way that Kent Hovind has. But for example, this guy, and you kind of touched on this too, where like his concern is literally that his followers are going to not have their faith in the King James version of the Bible because they think that CERN has gone back and changed it. And he makes these he has this half-hour video or whatever talking about how these haven't changed, and he remembers studying them when he's younger, and you're just misremembering, which is accurate. But then, as you mentioned, he'll then use the Bible to defend that the Bible is accurate, which is beautifully ironic. But it's just it's a Swiss cheese argument. Like if they're saying, hey, I don't know if I can trust this book, and then you go, no, look here, this book says you can trust it. What? Nope, that doesn't work. So
basically, what you're saying, it's a bit of a circular argument. Is that what you're going?
A little bit, but then on top of it, like I said, there's early in the video, he's kind of talking about just basically how people are misremembering, and he brings up the example of Star Wars and Luke, I am your father, and he basically says what we were saying. But then it's funny because, and I don't know if you guys ended up watching the whole video, I did, but he's rather than just saying at the end of it that people are misremembering, this is a satanic attack, that this Mandela effect is, and he doesn't think that the Mandela effect is real, but he's saying that people who are purporting the Mandela effect, that's a satanic attack. Like, it's just funny, like, because these are almost certainly other Christians who are the ones who are creating this whole mindset, this conspiracy theory is theirs, as far as I can tell.
Right. Well, and even the first one that I posted in there to introduce you guys to the subject, there's a disclaimer frame that pops up on the video that says, "I don't believe this anymore. Click here to see why," or whatever, and you can click on that link, and it'll take you to his other video where he explains why the Bible, says that it couldn't be because Yahweh doesn't change or whatever. And I was going to say, one other thing that I think would be really interesting to look into would be, of the people who are believers who had some doubts about the Bible and whatever, because they were exposed to this, Mandela effect, these theories or whatever, who then saw the pastor's explanation and reference back, oh, I can trust the Bible because the Bible says so now I don't have to worry about the Bible being tampered with or whatever. How many of those people were comforted and had their doubts satisfied with that argument? That would be an interesting study to, if you could actually do that. I don't know, but
Hey Dave, how do people in your end of the world feel about CERN?
This is the only, I think, apart from the initial fear of it's going to destroy the planet and the universe, apart from that, I think it's been pretty supportive. I think I don't. This is the first time this isn't really a British thing, I don't think. I've only heard support. Someone like Brian Cox, who a physicist in Manchester, who's big, kind of like the British version of, I guess, Neil deGrasse Tyson or Carl Sagan, like a popular scientist communicator. It has been communicating how, they know what they're doing there. They're not going to flip the switch and go, oh, crikey, what have we just done? Trying to communicate that, they do know what they're doing. There's a lot of scientists involved. So, yeah, this is the first time. Well, actually, no, the second time. The first one was, do you remember there was a particle discovered that I think had 5 points, and they claimed that was satanic because it was like a Pentateuch or whatever the 5-point satanic star is. And yeah, apart from that, which I think it was on Sons of Thunder or one of those channels that I'm subscribed to, but I see the titles and go, nope, not watching that, because it's I think that's what I first saw it. And so like yeah, I'm not going to subject myself to that. But
I think the idea, because from what I've been reading, if you've been wondering why I've been so quiet in the past couple of minutes. It's kind of like you said, the initial fear was that it would open up a black hole and suck the Earth, or something along those lines, right? It's like a very minute chance or something, some wacky could happen. And from most of the Christian web pages that I bounced around in, now keep in mind it is the internet, so there's a lot of wacky shit, but one of the main conspiracy theories is that they're using CERN to open up a portal to hell.
Oh.
And if you're the more science-minded, they're opening up a Stargate.
Okay.
Sure.
Like the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're a more science-minded Christian conspiracy nut.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's kind of a whole lot of ignorance on what the CERN even is. You know what I mean?
Do we want to say what it is? We haven't explicitly said what CERN is. We've been kind of talking about it and referencing it.
Oh yeah,
so the scientists who go back in time and change the Bible.
Yeah, we've been very clear on that.
Did we not establish that?
All right, does someone want to give everyone a synopsis of what the CERN is?
Sure. Yeah, it's there's an acronym for it, right? Or I don't know, but
there is.
Yeah, I can't find the acronym for.
I think it's French, isn't it? It's the
yeah, it is.
Central European.
Okay, yeah. Research nuclear or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
accent.
Yeah, so it's
It's some European bullshit.
Yeah, and it's the big product was this particle accelerator where they collide little particles to try and discover and do research. I think the big goal was what they call the Higgs boson, right?
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And which they also dubbed the God particle. So they have actually documented and found it now. Well, the particle accelerator also has the potential to create these kind of microscopic black holes, apparently, and so people were afraid, oh my God, it's going to swallow up the Earth in a black hole or something. So that became kind of the initial fear. And
Yeah, well, when
the average,
I mean that's
hell and other things, of course.
if you ask the average person what's a black hole, they have no fucking idea what a black hole is. I have no idea what a fucking black hole is. But what you gain from Star Trek and other sci-fi stuff is that it's a big hole in space that sucks everything in, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know the details of it. So when people hear stuff like a black hole, they think of the movies, and
Right.
right.
that
I mean
kind of
the key there is that what Gavagai said is that it's like microscopic and, if I remember correctly, like disappears in like a nanosecond or something like that. But I mean, yeah, anytime you have something where we're kind of like pushing the edge of our understanding, there's a gap there where people can go in and inject their beliefs and fears, and fear, like, it's so easy to use fear to get people to believe things. Like, just the other day, last weekend, I believe, I was at my girlfriend's. Her family has like a corn roast every year, and it's like all her extended family and the extended family's extended family, and her aunt is sitting there talking about how she's concerned about Pokemon Go because she heard that it was developed by the Chinese to get at our
fucking
secrets.
Chinese.
Or get it, like, because they can use that data or whatever and collect it and
See
get
which
in-
parks we're going to.
yeah, or something. But the point being that it's very easy to get rumors and ideas to spread when you use people's fears and uncertainty. That's the easiest way to get these things to snowball.
Well, what I find interesting is what happens when these things don't happen. So we know all about end time prophecy and stuff like that. But when people said, "Oh, CERN is going to destroy the planet with a black hole," what happens to those people who well, we're still alive. The planet hasn't been destroyed. What happens to those people who thought that was going to happen? And like I say, with people predicting the end of the world, which has been happening for thousands of years, and that's what got me interested in cognitive dissonance. That's what it developed from. So Leo Festinger infiltrated a cult and then sort of saw what happened when this group predicted the end of the world in the 50s. What would happen after the world didn't end? And I find that fascinating. Like I say, that it seems they just go on to the next conspiracy theory or the next sort of pet fad or whatever it is. And it's like the when I used to subscribe to the Vigilant Christian, and that just infuriated me too much. But it just seems like it just jumps to the next topic. So it's like, okay, well, you can have that one, but what about this one? And it just seems like it's never-ending sort of like hopping between lily pads. When you start sinking in one, you just jump to the next one, and then all the time blissfully, oblivious to the fact that, well, let's just go back to the one that didn't happen. And it's strange to me how that just seems to just get brushed under the carpet and like, oh no, well, we'll just go on to the next one. And
That was yesterday. I was wrong about that yesterday.
But
this one, yeah.
It's like, when people predict the end of the world, it's like, literally Jesus today. Jesus said, this generation will not pass away until all these things have happened. And then obviously you see sort of 2 Peter in the 2nd century saying, okay, funny story, this is why it didn't happen. Paraphrasing slightly, I'm not Greek, but, he was saying, scoffers and whatever will say, but, 1,000 years is like a day, and a day is like 1,000 years, and God doesn't wish anyone to perish. That's why it's not happened yet. So yeah, you can see in the Bible this sort of perfectly preserved cognitive dissonance from like 2,000 years ago, which is like a fossil that you sort of, imagine getting a little, like, brush out like a paleontologist.
Is there a psychological reason for cognitive dissonance?
Well, that's kind of what my thesis is about, actually. It's about, what happens when we encounter contradictory information or potentially threatening information. So, cognitive dissonance is quite a simplistic theory. It's kind of that we encounter dissonance, so we have this unpleasant feeling that our beliefs are mistaken or we're wrong. And so there's sort of, according to dissonance, there's three main ways you resolve the issue. So, change the cognition, change your behavior, or sort of come up with a rationalization. So, if I say smoking is harmful and you smoke, you can either stop smoking, come up with a rationalization, or add a new cognition to make it sort of, less
Dave
dissonant.
S. is full of shit.
Oh,
That's my rationalization.
there you go. Exactly.
He's a
Or
liar.
Exactly.
He can't be. He's British.
Oh, there you go. But yeah, so I think people underestimate the power of sort of dissonance and how incredibly sort of influential it is in guiding our behaviours, because we don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling of, hang on a minute, what if I've been wrong all these years about whatever? And so yeah, people come up with any number of excuses. Like I say, a lot of people smoke. We know smoking is harmful, so people come up with any reason. So for example, oh well, my granddad lived to be 90 and he was fine and he smoked 20 a day, so that makes sense to me. That that makes me feel better, so I can sleep at night thinking, but obviously that only makes sense to the smoker. That only sort of, it's rationalizing rather than being rational. It's trying to work backwards from your conclusion rather than forwards to your conclusion. So yeah, that's kind of what I do now. It's sort of science communication. So how can we best educate the public about sort of scientific issues? And so I'm trying to develop a theory to say, okay, that takes into account sort of values and social identities and kind of conspiracy theories, possibly, to say, how do we best communicate science based on the idea that, we're a person in a world of people, that we have different values, we have different starting points, and so how can I best communicate to you? So I think it's very much a case of, if you ask 5 different psychologists, they'll say, oh, it's all to do with social identity, or it's all to do with dissonance, or it's all to do with self-affirmation. So different theories say different things and should respond in different ways, and I think that they're all kind of part of a more grand theory. So that's kind of what I'm trying to develop at the moment.
Do you ever use any of this stuff when you and your girlfriend have a fight? Like, do you ever go, honey, cognitive dissonance, you're probably, and then like you bust off the terminologies. Hi.
She's actually looking at me now, so I'm going to say no, I don't do
Just
that.
wink uncomfortably into the camera. It's got to be tough. It's got to be tough being with a psychologist. And then
yes. We have stimulating discussions.
We don't argue.
We don't argue. She just explains why she's right.
So, what is her specialty? Is she in psychology as well, or?
Yes, consumer psychology. Well, do you want to? She is here, so she can actually. Do you want to go on webcam or?
God, no.
Okay, no. She'll just. She is wearing a Star Wars T-shirt. I can confirm that though. So, do you want to explain?
Unity. Oh God.
Okay, here's the microphone.
Really, really quickly. I'm interested in the cognitive functions that are literally at the forefront when we are trying to either find a brand or why we become initially attracted to a brand. So that's pretty much what I do. How we recognise them.
Very practical.
Nice.
Yes,
Very visually motivated. But after the thesis, because everybody seems to think I'm a sellout, I'm going to be highlighting the dangers of advertising and global brands, basically.
Wow.
Not a
You got
sellout.
yourself a smart woman.
I know. She's a keeper, isn't she?
I know. Being here in Orange County, California, right? Like, there's a certain perception of how people are kind of dumb, and girls are kind of like, you see like reality shows, and I can completely confirm that theory. Everything you've heard is exactly accurate.
Probably less so if you hung out at the universities.
Oh yeah, there's that. I certainly don't have a PhD, so
Yeah.
there's that isn't going to happen for me.
You're at the bars and the beaches.
I live next to bars. It's not my fault. So, are you guys done with your school, or?
She's in her going into her third year in October, and I'm starting my second in October. I'm actually changing universities at the moment, so
okay.
bit of conflict, but yeah.
So is she ahead of you, or like school-wise?
Yes. So she's she's beginning writing up, and I'm starting experimenting this year.
Oh, okay.
So when I go back in October, I'll be doing my fun experiments that I've
Nice.
designed.
That doesn't sound like something she could throw in your face later. You know, you're a year behind me, honey, and I
Well,
gotta say,
she's not a year ahead of me, so I'm
yeah. Dave just immediately acquiesces. Yes, honey.
Luckily, she's not here now, so I can say whatever.
And nice. So that's pretty fascinating. I'm glad Gavagai. I didn't know anything about you up until this point. Like I said, I've watched some of your videos. So this is pretty much all I got on the Mandela Effect. I'm not sure if you guys want to touch upon anything else, because I I inadvertently tricked Gavagai into watching this movie called Christian Mingle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen the Bible Reloaded thing, but yeah, I've not actually seen.
Oh, is that out there? Yeah.
I think so.
I forgot to watch it, so he's the only one that has seen it. But that's the only thing I got that's of any Mandela Effect importance. So I don't want to keep you on if you have to go, or if you just want to hang and bullshit, or...
I'm happy with shooting the shit for a bit longer.
Oh, okay. All right,
But yeah.
Gavi got a Jesus doll, and he's been avoiding talking about it for a month and a half, I think. So, aren't you going to tell us your Jesus doll story?
Yeah. So.
Can you put it in the camera?
Yeah, I'll put him up here, but I'll give the explanation first. So I worked at in a U.S. Senate office for like when I was right out of college, and every day we get mail from various places and things, and people send all kinds of junk and whatever. Well, this particular senator that I worked for had been in office this was her second term, and so there was some accumulation of things that had been sent, and a lot of it is like little knickknacks, and they put them up around the office. People are like, oh, thank you for helping us, with our city. Here's a, little coin or trinket or something saying, our city appreciates you, or some, little things like that. And other people send things that, they want her to promote or whatever. Well, so I had been in kind of the assistant position for a while, and then I got to move over to like this bigger desk, and one day I was kind of cleaning out some of the stuff that had been there from the previous occupant, and I looked underneath the desk, like where you roll your chair, and there was a box under there, and the box had a label on it. Hang on, I'm going to turn on my camera here.
I've been waiting for this story for seriously like almost 2 months.
I know. I can't. It's like a cliffhanger. I can't wait anymore.
I muted myself rather than turning my camera on.
Tune in next week.
So,
Yeah.
So here's the box, and I don't know if you can see. You probably can't, but it says Jesus. I was like, what's in this? So,
it could have been Jesus.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I pulled it out, and
I
here
mean,
it goes. So somebody sent this guy to the senator, and they were like, well, hey, we're manufacturing these, or we're distributing them. They aren't even manufacturing them.
Dude, he's ripped.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
I was noticing
and
that
he's got
too.
nipples.
Dude, he's got like pecs and everything.
He's got like super hard nipples.
It's cold in Jerusalem today.
So yeah, but I couldn't believe it. I pulled him out, and I was like, why is this? And so I opened it up, and there's like this letter. They were wanting her to go to the Senate floor and like hold him up and say, all children should play with Jesus dolls or whatever from this company. And it's not even, it's manufactured. It says on the back, or no, on the bottom of it, handcrafted, which I don't know that it's handcrafted. It looks pretty
Crafted is stretch,
Pretty
yeah.
manufactured.
Somebody carved out those nipples by hand.
handcrafted in the People's Republic of China. So can you imagine being a senator, and then somebody, of course, is going to step up and be like, "Well, she's promoting this junk that's made in China,"
That's a communist Jesus doll.
Yeah. And then the other interesting thing about him was that he says scripture verses, and I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. I'm going to pull it up as close as I can.
John 20:29. Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed.
Yeah, but he gives like the scripture reference to it too, which for if you're giving it to kids, I guess it's. And you want them to learn the Bible, it's good for them to kind of know the scripture verse. But like Jesus never would have given scripture references, right? Because it wasn't written when he was around. So I just thought that was kind of funny too. But
I don't think he would have given a doll of himself saying, "Here you go, kids."
Right. Yeah. But he's really cut and blue eyes, white hair. I mean, completely white skin.
Yeah, Sal. That sounds right to me.
Yeah. I just thought that was funny and wanted to share. It had been up in my closet, after I lost that job, I got to take him with me and
It's a nice parting gift.
Does he come with any like peripherals,
Weapons?
No, there's no accessories.
Or
Nunchucks?
Didn't he chase somebody with a whip at one point or something in the Bible? Or?
Yeah, that'd be fun too. His hands are posable, kind of, but he can point with a finger, but it's like he's always got this curve in his finger, so it's not a very straight pointing.
Maybe it's colonoscopy Jesus.
No, I think what it is he can hold a gun and have his trigger finger there.
There you go.
Gangsta Jesus. That's even better. Now with table flipping action.
Table flipping action. That's good.
Yeah, that would be great. You have a lever on his back and his arms go whoop.
You have to get the playset of the temple to get the tables to flip over.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Pharisees, they all sold separately.
Yeah. Lepers and prostitutes are in a different pack.
He's pretty tall. He's 12 inches
Jesus.
at least.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So-
when you're the Lord of the universe, you should be pretty statuesque.
Yeah.
Does he sweat blood?
What'd you say?
I asked if he sweated blood.
Oh, no, that's even worse.
Yeah. Yeah,
Is
and
he
there's no
accurate,
holes
or-
in his hands.
Yeah,
though,
they're
so
holding
this
his hands or anything?
This is
or?
pre-crucifixion Jesus, I guess.
Oh, pre-crucifixion. Can you imagine?
That's probably why he was working out, because he knew he was going to have to carry that cross. So
Yeah.
he's prepping for that.
If we believed in hell, we'd be going there. This is great. So that's the Jesus doll story. That's a pretty
That's
good
the
story.
Jesus doll
Gabby.
story.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's a good one.
Yeah, well, and every once in a while, we get sad because, people are calling and yelling at us about Obama being a communist and stuff, and when we're answering the phones, so we'd pull him out and we're like, oh, here's Jesus, he's gonna tell us something good, and click his button and he'd give us something good.
That would be awesome, dude. I would love a Jesus doll. So what do you do with it? Just keep it in your office or whatever?
Yeah, no, he's been hiding, collecting dust in my closet. But I came across him the other day, and I thought it'd make for a good.
Well,
good
it'd be
story.
cool because it's a good front, right? So if someone comes over and they go, "You're still a Christian, right?" And you go, "Yeah, look, I got a Jesus doll right here. Love the thing."
One year
Jesus talks to me.
I gave Turtle a Gene Simmons doll, and our mom thought it was satanic, and I don't know what she did with it, but I've kind of wanted to pair the two, and set them up together.
It doesn't help that the Gene Simmons Kiss character is called the Demon, by the way.
Yeah.
Just so you know, it's. Yeah, it's funny. There were a lot of weird things when I was growing up that were satanic, right? Because I played Dungeons and Dragons, and that was big in the 80s. I mean, I don't know how old you guys are. I think, Gabby, you're older than I am, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, I think we're right about the same age, but yeah,
Okay.
we had Dungeons and Dragons, and
Dave looks like he's 12.
it was evil.
Ask him how old
He
his
doesn't look
girlfriend
like
is.
he's 12.
I did shave my beard today, and my girlfriend said I looked a lot younger.
How old are you? About 30?
I am 23.
Oh,
23
never mind. It's the beard, dude. You do look older with that beard.
I know. Someone said I was 27 the other day, so yeah.
Your girlfriend was 25 then?
Yeah, so my girlfriend's 25, and she's not that age. I'm not sure if I can reveal her age.
You really, hey, but if you wanna do like a shit ton of like webcam stuff, I suggest investing in an HD monitor so we can see that smooth 23-year-old skin.
And the majestic beard that I got complimented.
It's the beard.
My hair looks fabulous. You complimented my hair in the side chat.
Yeah. I'm gonna do like an accompanying video to count with a little counter on the side to count how many times you wiped your hair away from your eyes.
I would guess. If it was a drinking game, you wouldn't last longer than 5 minutes.
No, I wouldn't. So,
And the amount of times I flick it is probably more when I've just done that. So
yeah. It's like I'm watching one of those shampoo commercials for like 2 hours.
It's just
Spotlight on my
Keegan's
hair.
easily distracted.
Yeah.
People talking. He flicks his hair.
I don't have that.
None of the rest of us use our actual video image, so it's you're the only thing that's actually worth
Here, well,
watching.
hold on, I'll turn my camera on, but I'm pretty sure like my hair is goofy. Hold on.
Oh.
Yeah. See. Oh, wait. There I am. See, I
Can you
got
not-
sort of like when it's spiked up, it's sort of a mohawky type deal.
Yeah.
Like,
You can't really flick that as majestically, but
it's not right. I can't. I can't do anything with it. It's like It's I'm half Asian. I'm half Chinese, and I'm half Puerto Rican. So it's just fucking curl. Like beyond this, like you can see, it's already curling. So it just does like this fucking wavy, fucking fro-y type deal. So.
Say I pity the fool.
Get my fucking gold chains working.
Yeah.
So when you get wow, you're only 23. That's amazing. No, good for you. Do you have your PhD and stuff? I turn 40 next month, right?
Oh, I'm a year behind you.
Yeah, my girlfriend is a year behind you, so you can work out her age from that.
Wait. How old's your girlfriend?
It's simple math.
No.
You can, Heathen, you can even Tetris this one out. Come on.
I for some reason thought you said 25. That's why. I don't know, or 29 or something.
Oh no, not that.
Not that.
So you're dating an older woman.
Yeah, this.
Nice,
Yeah, this happening now.
The one thing about dating an older woman is that you always come away learning something new. That's you always end up knowing more than what you went in with an older woman.
It's got a cougar.
Oh no, that's. He just shrugs his shoulders. So. Oh, dear.
Oh, that's amazing. So
Another drink then.
I know, right? Hey, Turtle.
Yeah.
Good question.
Okay.
Are you still talking to that lady there's this lady that's been trying to convert Turtle forever?
Oh yeah.
And how's that going? Do you still speaking to her?
No, I had last contact with her. I sent her a reply, but that was probably close to 2 months ago. I have not heard from her since. She said she was gonna take some time and reply, but that hasn't happened. Now, in her defense, there's no way to respond to what I said. No.
Okay.
That was a joke. In her defense, I was just trying to be arrogant, but it fell flat. In her defense, she is very, very busy, but no, I haven't heard from her for several months, so
Gotcha.
we'll see.
And since you brought up cognitive dissonance earlier, Dave, I had a question. So,
Fire away, yeah.
when you did that video for your presuppositionalist video, or when you hear someone like Sci-10 or something, and you said their cognitive dissonance, they either rationalize or something or other. So, other than the obvious flaws of the argument, right? When they get to a point where they say, God makes me know, right? They just don't. They get to a point where they have no other sort of recourse. They go, well, just God makes me know. Is that what you mean by sort of coming like a rationalization where they can't deal with the actual refutation, or they can't actually deal with the objection, and from a an argumentation standpoint, so they just fall back on, well, does God makes me know, as a rationalization to get
Yeah,
around
well,
that?
Funnily enough, that's what my PhD was going to be about originally. It was going to be about the motivated rejection of fallibilism. So basically, it's not that they reject fallibilism, that people can be wrong, mistaken, fallible, but it's motivated. So I can't be mistaken because God's on my side and God cannot lie and God has revealed it in such a way I know it for certain, that kind of thing. So my PhD was going to be about how can people get to the position where they think that they can't be wrong? Okay, so people like, Matt Slick, has an experience about the existence of God and he can't be wrong now. So he has like rationalizations like the tag, but at its core, same with William and Craig, at their core they have experiences they have that they simply cannot be persuaded away from, because I think you can't be rationally persuaded out of a position that you haven't rationally come to. So if you had an experience, which I think a lot of Christians ultimately have, a lot of theists ultimately have, they have an experience, they attribute that to God, and they say, well, I know what I know what I felt, I know what I saw. So this kind of, because they have not been reasoned into that position, you can't reason them out of that position. So I think that's the problem with the Presup, or the original version of the Presup, the Cyclone sort of version of the Presup, was that it's been revealed to me in such a way that I know it for certain, and that just is the way to overcome dissonance. The way to overcome anything is to say, well, arguing against my position actually validates my position. So nothing can possibly falsify my position, because it can't be proven wrong, because it is the case. You can't prove something wrong that is the case. I think that's one way to overcome dissonance, to just simply reject the idea that you can be wrong. So that's what my original PhD idea was going to be about. To be how can you come to this position where it's not just that they reject fallibilism. Like I say, if they reject fallibilism, then everyone would be right, and we have mutually contradictory things to believe. So it's got to be motivated. It's got to be in favor of a position, for like an in-group thing. So it's incredibly bizarre when you hear people say that they cannot be wrong about this, because they can and are wrong.
Because you can.
Yeah.
There's a lot of production that goes into the videos, and it always plays out like an orientation video at a new job, which because you speak all slowly and you're like, so and it's like, it's easy enough for me to follow. I always, every once in a while, I dislike presuppositionalism so much that I'll just be on the way to work and I'll Google, like, in the car, like, listen to YouTube or something, and I'll be like, presuppositionalism, defeated, or something like, just because I like it seeing demolished over and over again. Like, I don't know why, like, I don't know
because
why.
it's such a debate stopper, I think. At least for me, like, it's just this whole approach is just to avoid having an actual conversation.
Well, that's what it's originally. It's saying that you can't even argue against the position, because arguing against it presupposes God. So that like I say, it's a debate stopper, because it's saying, Saiten Brunke said that in the debate with Matt Dillahunty, that this debate isn't over, it didn't even begin, kind of thing. That before we even sat down for the debate, the argument was over. You've already lost, kind of thing. By engaging in the debate, you've already lost. So it's that we're all suppressing the truth in unrighteousness, and because Romans, it says that all know that God exists, blah blah blah. You've heard the script before. Right. But so it's literally to say to a group of people, look, you can't be wrong. Okay, you arguing against this position actually validates your position. So that's very reassuring to a lot of people, saying, oh, I'm having doubts. Oh, these doubts, aren't grounded in anything, because arguing against them or having doubts, presupposes that their version of God exists. So it's cognitively satisfying, but ultimately not appealing to anyone who's not a theist, because obviously, if premise one is God exists and the conclusion is God exists, we all know that's not a very good way of arguing. Changing someone's mind, say premise one, I'm always right about everything. Premise two, blah blah blah, whatever. Premise, conclusion, therefore I'm right about everything. So it's not a rational way. It's not an apologetic, basically, which annoys me. It's not It's not giving you a defense of. It's saying, well, we're already right, so anyone who's trying to prove me wrong is already doomed from the outset, kind of thing.
And I think that's annoyingly the most successful, or seem like the most successful kind of arguments are the ones where you just at the outset say we're right, and you can't argue against it, like Matt Slick's kind of arguments as well.
Yeah.
Well, they'll say they won't say I'm right. They'll say there are things I can't be wrong about, and the existence of God is one of them.
Well, and then they also take advantage of and manipulate people who have some small amount of humility in acknowledging, or who are willing to acknowledge the possibility that they could be wrong hypothetically, and because of that, if you're willing to give that, then you automatically are treated as if, because you acknowledge your own fallibility, that you've lost the argument. So
yeah, you say you could be wrong, and I say that I can't be wrong. So
right.
obviously
Therefore,
I'm right.
I'm right. Yeah.
Well, the trick with presuppers, and I try to get this across to that Dave Sarche guy, is that I don't even engage the questions. The questions are completely useless because we don't. First of all, the terms that he's using, we don't agree on the definition, right? So there's no point even getting into the questions, because we all know the questions are a big rabbit hole and a trap and this and that. And then everybody ends up falling for them eventually. Everybody I've met or I've seen online always ends up falling for it, and it's on some level, because the whole trick is to get them to once they get one question asked and you answer, then it just keeps going after that.
Yeah.
And so I don't even get into the questions, because they can't even. As soon as they tell me, even if they tell me their argument is circular, but it's virtuously circular, then I don't even go. Dude, you already said your argument was circular, dude. Like, I don't even, But yours is too. Yeah, but you're basing that on your circular argument. So bye. I mean, there's no point. What's the point of going on after that?
Yeah, that's the thing. I did the similar sort of conclusion I got with the Coulomb cosmological argument, because at its core, it's not a intuitive argument that the people think it is. It's incredibly complicated and incredibly controversial argument, despite looking very simple and very intuitive. I think people forget that it's a very, William Lane Craig's written books about this. If it was that simple, he wouldn't have to write a book about it. Let's put it that way. So, and I think basically, I did like a 15-minute long video about the Coulomb, and then basically ultimately boiling down to, I don't even agree with the definitions of the terms that you're using. So, for example, when he says begins to exist, it means something very specific and very controversial. So, when you get to the end of the argument, you go, hang on a minute, this what seemed like a sort of very intuitive, very, kind of almost, it's so consistent with our experience that things have cause, but when you realize what the argument is actually saying, then you realize that we just fundamentally disagree. So I disagree with how he defines begins to exist. I disagree with what he means by cause. I disagree that with his definition of universe as well. And right. So I spent 15 minutes basically saying, look, you can only accept an argument if you accept the premises, because the conclusion is in the premises. In a deductive argument, that's what makes it valid. It's saying that, if we say, use the typical example of premise 1, all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. The conclusion is in the premises. Okay, that's what makes it valid. And it's just using the inference rules, we sort of, peel away the sort of details to make the conclusion. So it's what a categorical syllogism is. You have a set of things, and then you have a subset of that. Therefore, that has the same nature as the set of all things. So that's what a categorical syllogism would be. So the conclusion's already in there. It's just saying you have to accept the premise 1, accept premise 2, and accept that if premise 1 and premise 2 are true, then the conclusion follows. Okay. So when we talk about arguments, you shouldn't really be convinced by a deductive argument, because a deductive argument is saying you have to accept the reasonableness of the premises. But when it comes to theism, we don't. We're not theists, so we don't accept the reasonableness of the premise. So that's the foundational failure of apologetics, is that it's trying to use a method that you have to already believe in order to be convinced by. In other words, you have to believe before you believe in order to believe, which is nonsense when you're trying to convince someone that premise 1, like the modal ontological argument is a good example, that you have to accept that God is possible in order to accept that he exists. And it's saying that if you accept he's possible, then you accept he exists. But what they mean by possible is slightly different. So the entire apologetics sort of crumbles when you realize that all arguments are not persuasive, in the sense of you shouldn't be persuaded by them if you're not persuaded by the reasonableness of the premises. It's only if you sort of don't connect the dots. If you say, okay, I accept premise 1 and premise 2 are true, and I accept that if premise 1 and premise 2 are true, then the conclusion follows, but I don't accept the conclusion follows, kind of thing. It's only for people who haven't really connected the dots to say, it's like me saying, oh, I hate indie music, and you turn around saying, oh, Dave, but this band are indie, and you go, oh no, I like them, and then pointing out, then you do like indie music. That kind of, oh yeah, I didn't realize that the whole time, I must have liked them. It's only that kind of realization that, oh yeah, no, that is true. Like if I said, have you ever seen the evening star? And you go, no. And I say, well, have you seen Venus? And you go, yes, I've seen Venus. And if I say, well, if Venus is the evening star, then does that mean you've seen the evening star? And you go, yes. So it's only when you connect the dots and you're cognitively aware of the fact that this argument just sort of proves that you can't both simultaneously say you've seen Venus but not seen the evening star. That's just doesn't follow. That's what's the phrase? But yeah, you can't simultaneously say A and not A because they're identical. But rant over for the day.
Well, definitionally speaking, that's the problem that I had when I talked to the pre-suppers is, they'll often try to, we'll get involved in some kind of conversation and they'll go, yeah, but how do you, but what do you base your morality on? They'll always get to that, right? And I'm like, oh, what's morality? Well, how to define morality? And they go, your ability to determine what's good and evil. And I'm like, okay, well, define good for me. Well, good is from what's God's nature. Well, then this question makes no sense to me. So I just reject the question on the outset. I mean, can you demonstrate that it comes? If you can demonstrate that good it comes from God's nature, then I can answer your question, right? So, to me, those definitions are important. There's not even point in playing the game if they can't even. If they can't even demonstrate.
Well, they want to lock you into their definitions because that's the most important thing to the game for them is to set the rules in a way that benefits their point of view.
In the same way that if you talk to Darwin's deity or whatever whatever stock account he's into these days, he won't talk to me anymore because I don't accept a lot of what he says. For example, when he says the absolute laws of logic, I'm like, well, which laws of logic? There are different ones. For example, I subscribe to fuzzy logic. He subscribed to classical logic. And I say, well, they're not absolute. There are different sort of rules within logic. So there's modal logic, fuzzy logic. Basically what I'm saying is I don't accept bivariate logic in which you have the truth and the falsity. So this is what the law of excluded middle is, that a proposition is true or its negation is true. I would say, no, that's not what I think. I would say that there are degrees of, truth and falsity and degrees of belief, so credences. And so he just refuses to talk to me because he thinks because I've denied the logical absolutes that, anything goes and I'm just going to contradict myself. So I think he's scared of dealing with someone who doesn't even agree on the sort of rules that we're playing by, because I can't follow his script and flow diagram of, okay, good, what about this? Okay, good. I'm like, well, step one, I don't agree that step one is the beginning. I think there's a step before that, or whatever he perceives it as. So yeah, he just refuses to talk to me because I don't agree with him on the definitions of the terms or the implications of whatever.
It's like they're trying to get you to play checkers and you're playing by the rules of chess. You know what I mean? Like just it's not going to work.
Yeah. So. They're trying to force you in. Well, you can hear him. He's probably the best example of this because he literally says "okay, good" when he's heard what he wants to hear.
You're right.
He goes "okay, good." So if he says morality is a good one because it's something that invariably we get onto. Rightly or wrongly, that's rightly or wrongly. And then if you say whatever you say, you see him on his you can almost see him like looking down to his flow diagram. If they say this, then say that. If they say this, then say that. And it's okay, good. I go here. Okay, good. It's like BuzzFeed quizzes of which Desperate Housewife character are you, and if you answer like this, then you go to this one. If you go like that, and that's all he's doing because you can literally hear him say okay, good, and that's not a conversation. It's him trying to pigeonhole you into a box and then say if they're in this box, then say this. If they're in this box, then say that. And if they don't play your game, then just dismiss them, which is what he's done with me.
Yeah.
And then call him a troll, and then cry.
Have you heard Alex Malpass?
I have, yes.
Did you hear his conversation with Matt Slick about disjunctive syllogisms or syllogisms?
Those things, yeah. I did two videos about the exchange, yeah, because I think a lot of people, it's like 2 hours, well, about an hour and a half, the original discussion, so I thought, let's do a bite-sized video of about 10, 15 minutes to explain as simply as possible what he was saying, and yeah, it was a fascinating exchange, and how you could see the next week when they were discussing it, how they rewrote what happened.
Right.
I found that the most interesting bit.
Well, J.D. Kane went into Matt Slick's the Bible Thumping Wingnut show or whatever and tried to re-explain it to him on why just wording it God or not God doesn't make any sense, right? It has to be like propositional.
Yeah, there's no truth value there.
Right, and so, and of course, Matt Slick throws a giant tantrum, and it's like, I don't have to get the words exactly right. You're just being kind of nitpicky and blah 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 blah. And J.D. Kane's like, no, it's very important that we give it that. The specific reason why this the specifics are very important, or it's just not going to make any sense. And he's just dug in his heels, and it's like, no, it works. It logically works, and basically we're all wrong.
Yeah. I think it's ironic that he was talking with someone who's literally a logician. His job, at least was anyway, was to talk about logic, and he was saying, no, it's wrong. And the conclusion I think was pretty clear, that he was saying that any argument that has what he calls a true dichotomy, there isn't really such a thing as a true dichotomy. All dichotomies are true apart from false ones. If I say I'm either drinking whiskey or I'm drinking water, okay, if that's true, then that's a true dichotomy. It's not a case of it has to be the direct negation of I'm either drinking water or not drinking water. It's just an example of a dichotomy, but that's a slight aside.
Yeah,
So
always thought of. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but I always thought of a dichotomy, or what he would call a true dichotomy, is like you say this restaurant serves only soup or salad.
Yeah.
It does not serve salad, so by it definitely it'll serve only soup, right? That's how I always thought it was. P or Q, not Q, therefore P, right? Or something like that. Yeah.
So, and the reason why. So basically, what Slick was trying to do was to say, so people can't accuse me of committing a false dichotomy. I'll use the strongest possible disjunct, okay, and that is its logical negation. Okay, so basically he was trying to, well, it's basically jumping out of the frying pan into the fire to basically say, I don't want people to accuse me of saying, of using a false dichotomy, so I'm going to use its negation. Okay, the problem is when you use its negation, a disjunctive syllogism means you negate one of the options. So if you negate the negation, it's a double negative, so it's a positive. So that means just the affirmative. So P or not P, premise 2 would be not P, which is identical to P. If I say my name is not Dave, then my name is Dave. Okay, it's identical. And so the conclusion would be not P, or again P. So basically, by trying to circumnavigate the problem of it being a false dichotomy, he then fell prey to it's still a false dichotomy, but that's a slight aside. But if he repaired it so it was a true dichotomy, what he calls, a true dichotomy, then it's just begging the question. It's saying, it's like me saying Matt Slick is either an idiot or he's not an idiot. It's not the case he's not an idiot, therefore he's an idiot. Okay, that's all it's doing. So premise 2 is basically saying it's not the case he's not an idiot, which means he is an idiot. And the conclusion would be, therefore, he's an idiot.
And then couldn't you just eliminate?
I think you just proved that he's an idiot.
Yeah. Well, I've got to prove Matt Slick is an idiot, so you can have that one there.
What would be funny? It would be you don't do a whole lot of behavioral stuff, right? Do you, Dave?
In what way behavioral?
Like it would be funny to have you. Have you ever thought of just doing a breakdown of an apologist or someone on YouTube,
Ooh.
Matt Slick, and then just kind of do what you did, but in a little more in depth, and sort of like a dossier file on their
like
their
a profile. Yeah. I guess it's something that possibly we could I think people have alluded to stories about Matt Slick and his his experiences so much guide his underlying metaphysical assumptions, but I don't think anyone's ever done that before, so possibly that could be interesting. It depends how much information you get about
What's sound really cool in a British accent?
Everything sounds cool in a British accent. So.
I know. Everything you can sit there and go, I just farted in the bathtub, and it would just sound debonair, and I'm sitting here wearing this shirt that says day drinking and naps. So USA.
That's America right there.
Oh shit.
I think you should retitle this hangout to Dave S. proves Matt Slick is an idiot.
I like that. I love that.
That's awesome.
There you go.
I'll change the subtitle. The Mandela Effect and Dave S. Matt Slick is an idiot. But so anyway, we're at about 2 hours. This is when we sort of clean up here, Dave. And the guys tend to have to go, and I got to be honest with you, my nephew's here, and so I'm gonna hang out with him for a while and play video games. Yeah, I know.
You gonna play Tetris?
I'm gonna yeah. Well, if he wasn't here, it would be video games and internet porn. But since he's here, it's gonna be video games. So.
All
right.
It's
not that
those are good choices.
Yeah,
That's a true dichotomy right there.
Internet porn or not internet porn?
Well, not internet porn.
Not internet porn.
So
it's amazing. Every time I try to make a decision, it ends up being internet porn. How that happens. But thanks, Dave, for coming on.
My pleasure, don't worry.
You were more than welcome to come back on. And if you're ever bored on a Sunday, we go every 2 weeks.
Oh,
If you're ever bored, want to talk about something that's not in a video or something where you want to vent, or as you can tell, we're a bunch of uncouth bastards. So just let us know. And I feel like you're like the Kraken in the future, you know. So whenever we need you, if you're like, Dave, we need you to explain this.
Release the Dave.
Yeah, release the Dave.
Well, I'm always up for that, so yeah, I'll definitely stay tuned, and and great show, guys. I've never laughed so much in a hangout, so thanks for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. All right, guys, I'm gonna end it. Do you have anything? You got any hangouts you're gonna be in? Any videos coming up? You wanna promote real quick?
Well, I think I'll give you guys a shout out because this has been hilarious and really enjoyable. So I think the more people who can get involved with this, the better. So I'll probably do a video about morality coming up,
Awesome.
about the conflict between subjective and objective morality. So stay tuned for that.
I'm not gonna press you to share this video. But
Okay.
I need you to share this video.
Need you to share this video, but no pressure.
Coming from me, it's like, who's this guy? But coming from Dave, it's like, hey, that guy got clout. This guy's gonna get a PhD. So, all right, Gabby guy, you got anything coming up?
No, I'm. No.
You gotta do videos with the Jesus doll.
Right.
Yeah, maybe so.
The Gabba guy spends most of his time trying to find the creepiest avatar pictures imaginable. So
That does
This one's
consume
not
a lot
that
of
bad,
time.
is it?
This is not as bad as some of them, but it's just
It's not
so weird. It is just so weird.
It looks like a bunny Grim Reaper.
it looks like a bunny Chewbacca.
It's the abominable bunny man.
Yes.
Bunny men. You got
Bunny Man.
Yeah.
Oh man! All right, Turtle, you got anything going on? I mean, I don't think you're Google active too much, except for us, right?
nah, I got nothing.
All right. All right. Well, that's our show. I will see everybody in 2 weeks. Thanks for showing up, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Cheers.